So, should you use UpWork for consulting? Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Don Felker, and in this show, I teach you how to start, survive, and thrive in the world of consulting so you can live a life of financial freedom and autonomy, one that you've probably always hoped for. So, should you use UpWork for consulting? It's a question I'm asked quite frequently. What are my thoughts on it? Is it a viable place for you to start your consulting career or have additional consulting clients? The short answer is, yeah, you can start there. There's nothing wrong with starting at UpWork. In fact, it's a fantastic place if you don't have any clients and you're just looking to get your feet wet. In fact, if you're just looking to see how well you like working as an independent consultant, UpWork is a great place to test the waters. Now, there are a few things you should be aware of when you are going to be starting doing some consulting at UpWork. And let's go ahead and talk about those real quick. Before we hop into it though, I'm going to give you some information about me so you understand where I'm coming from in regards to UpWork. I've been using UpWork on the other side of consulting as someone who hires contractors. I've been doing this for over 10 years. So I've been using UpWorks for over 10 years, back when it was called Odesk and back before Elance was combined into UpWork. I've hired copywriters, software developers in Android, iOS, Ruby on Rails, Python, .NET, you name it, a wide array of people. The list could go on and on and on. I've hired dozens upon dozens of people from UpWork. So I understand how the system works top to bottom, how you get paid, how it works, how the management process of it works, and so forth. And one of the first things you need to realize is when you start working on UpWork and once you get a client in UpWork, is that most likely, there's a high probability at least, that you're going to be on camera while you work. There's a little widget that will run inside of your computer that basically records your screen of what you're doing while your time clock is running. So if you're working for 3 hours for the client and that's running, your screen will be recorded the entire 3 hours. This is to prove that you in fact are working on what you say you're working on. It kind of keeps everybody on the same level page. Now, what I end up doing personally is if I'm working with someone I've never worked with before, I will have them leave it on for maybe a week or two just so I can check to see their work to make sure I'm not being taken advantage of. Then I let them know saying, hey, your work is doing great. You can turn off the camera and enter your hours manually so they don't have to have the time recorder going. That's an option for that's going to be up for the employer to decide. I personally don't like being recorded, so I don't want to record everybody else, though as a business person, I want to make sure, of course, that everybody's on the up and up. So I build trust with them and then I let them demonstrate trust and then kind of give trust back to them saying, hey, I trust you. Go ahead and turn your cameras off and you don't need to record it. So you will possibly be recorded initially. That can be turned off eventually. The other really important thing to realize is when you're starting out on UpWork and you've just created your profile, it's very often likely that you're not going to get any clients because you don't have any experience on your profile. No one's given you any ratings. No one's has any reviews of what you've done. So you need to add some portfolio of work so people can see what you've done. Perhaps this could be links to public websites you've designed, developed, created copy for, or anything like that. So people can see what you've done. So this is going to be a big challenge for you to actually get those first clients, which means most likely your rate is going to have to be much lower than you would like it to be initially. The goal here is to build up a nice little pool of clients. Could be with some fixed bid projects, could be with small one-off projects, or even a part-time gig for a couple of months to build up a nice pool of clients that have left you a nice solid amount of reviews. And once you do that, then you can start commanding a higher rate. You also have to think of UpWork like a flea market. When you go to a flea market, there's some good stuff and there's a lot of bad stuff. A lot of the projects that you're going to see out there are going to be ridiculous. You'll see a project that says, I want to recreate Instagram for $500. Immediately, anybody who has any technical prowess realizes that's absolutely ridiculous. There's no way that could happen. You will have clients that will ask completely egregious, outrageous things of you, and you have to be able to hold your ground and say, that's not possible. We can't do that, or we can do this. So there's just going to be some really crazy stuff you're going to see on platforms like UpWork where clients are going to be requesting just kind of outrageous different types of tasks. So just be prepared for that. You will find great ones out there that have fully spec'd out details, mock-ups, everything. and you can take those, and those are going to be great too. So you just kind of have to navigate through the kind of the landmass of the good and the bad. Now, also speaking of the good and the bad, there's going to be a large proportion of people where they're trying to just race to the bottom. You are also competing with people all around the world who have a much lower standard of living in different parts of the world than you. And so you will most likely be heavily underbid by a lot of other professionals that are out there. That's okay. That perhaps isn't your client. If your rate is much higher than everybody else, you need to be able to just demonstrate that value, and eventually clients will start coming to you. If for whatever reason you cannot land a client at your current rate, drop your rate. If you don't want to drop your rate, then you probably are not going to do that well on these sites like UpWork. Again, they're going to be good for you building your initial clientele or just kind of getting a pool together of clients to get some experience. So if you can't get any clients, consider just dropping your rate just so you can get some experience under your belt. When you do drop your rate and you do get some additional clients, let's say you get 2, 3, 4 clients in and they start giving you good reviews. You got 5 stars, you're getting some good reviews, and you have some hours on that have been billed in the system. Upwork's algorithm will automatically kick in, say, hey, this is a rising talent, and start putting a little badge on your profile saying that you're doing really well. And a lot of people at that point will start reaching out to you for more work. When you start doing this, when this starts happening to you and you get these 5-star reviews, I recommend that you actually up your rate, because this is an opportunity, because you're now being shown that, hey, this is a valuable asset to people. You can up your rate and keep testing new rates until you hit a ceiling for whatever your position is you're doing. What is that ceiling? I don't know. Depends on what you do, your location, and how much you want to try to charge. I've seen many people on Upwork who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year simply because they're really good and the clients know who they are and they keep coming back to that contractor. So it just depends on if you build your name up and you're communicating effectively. On platforms such as Upwork, you can take proficiency exams in particular languages like English or Spanish or whatever the language is. You can also do it for programming language or different types of things. So maybe you're a Ruby on Rails developer. You can take the Ruby on Rails exam, and then if you have a really good score on that, you'll put that on your profile. You'll say, hey, this person scored 98.8% on the Ruby on Rails exam and 4.9 stars with English and Spanish. At that point, the clients can then see, oh, this person looks like they've passed this test. Okay, that gives me a little bit more confidence. Again, it doesn't mean that much in the regards of you being able to do things effectively, but it does give them confidence so they can actually make the next step to reach out to you to potentially hire you, which then could end up being a client. So every little bit helps. You don't have to do it. It's just going to up your chances a little bit if you kind of take some of these exams out there as well. Now, lastly, let's talk about how you're getting paid. Most likely you're putting an hourly rate out there. And so once you build that hourly rate, you're going to build it automatically. Then Upwork is going to charge your client at the end of the week, saying this is how much you're going to get charged. You're going to get paid, I think it's on around a 2-week cycle. So the work you've done about 10 days ago, you'll start getting paid for that about 10 days later, 10 to 14 days later, right around then. And it'll be for the amount that you've been paid. One of the things you can also do is, on top of hourly, you can also negotiate a retainer amount with a client. You could say, hey, I'm going to do 5 hours of work for you every week, or I'll make myself available for you for 5 hours a week, and I'm going to just put me on a retainer for $500 a week. And then what will happen is the client can go into Upwork and create a contract for you for $500 a week, which will automatically be paid to you. And then you can bill additional time if you need necessary. So this is a great way to actually can build in a continual revenue with certain clients that need your time or want to make sure they can secure your time. Because, and I've experienced this as someone who hires people on Upwork, is eventually the really good people get taken. They get really busy. And if you become very valuable, you're going to get very, very busy. Just from doing great work all the time, people are going to want to continually hire you. That means your rates are going to go up. And eventually, a client is going to want to keep you. They're going to see that you're getting more busy, or you're going to tell them, hey, I have a lot of other work. My rates are going up. If you'd like to keep me, let me know. I have 10 hours a week I can give you. But if you want to do that, I need to be on retainer, because otherwise I'm going to up my rates and go to somebody else. Or we can just up your rates right now. So you can kind of work some deals with your clients as well and stay on their payroll as a retainer as well. So even if they maybe don't need you for those 10 hours, they still want to keep you on. Maybe they have design work. They just don't have it now, but they don't want to lose you. then they can do that as well. Because sometimes, and this is from my experience, I'll need to work with somebody, but perhaps I won't have a couple of weeks of work for them. I'll come back to them and say, hey, I need you to do this. They'll say, hey, I'm booked up for like two to 3 months. I can't get to it. Now, as an employer, I have to go back through and rehire someone. So to me, it would have just been worth it to pay this person for a week or two to keep them on so I could have them take over in a week or two when I had work for them. So again, these are all options you can work with. So is Upwork good for consulting? Yes, it is. You're going to hit the ground at the low end initially. Your rates are going to be really low. It is a race to the bottom for a lot of people. Come in, you can get your rates low, do a couple of contracts, get a bunch of good reviews, start upping your rates, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. And eventually you'll see your rates are going to go up. I've seen people's rates start at $15 an hour for programming, and this was for someone in the Philippines. And eventually I moved up to over $65 an hour for over in the Philippines. Same thing for some Ukrainian Ruby on Rails developers. And I've had some developers here in the United States where eventually they got too expensive where I couldn't even afford them anymore, simply because they were in such high demand because their work was so good. So you can do it. It's just you have to start and just continually build and build and build. It's going to be hard to start out at a very high rate unless you already have a large audience who already knows about you. Now, I hope that helps. Definitely check out Upwork. This is not a paid advertisement or anything like this. This is just my experience. I've been using Upwork for 10 years on the employer side, and I'm trying to help you start with consulting. It is a viable option for you to get starting with consulting. You just have to be aware of some of the pitfalls and how some of the things work. I hope this has helped, and I hope you find some clients and start billing big time. I hope you found that information useful, and I'll catch you next time.